right, as Noah mentioned, this week he has selected for us the Kilchoman Sanaig.
Yeah, I guess so. Nailed it.
Another Isla single malt Scotch whiskey. And there's some very interesting things about this distillery. Some exciting things, as a matter of fact. One being that this distillery did not open up until 2005. And that meant it had been 124 years since the previous distillery, the most previous distillery had opened. So 125 years later, Kilchoman comes into play and creates a distillery, and their focus is to do it their old farm style. So they have a farm, and I believe it's sitting on 2,300 acres that they farm. That's a lot of acreage, 400 of which they use for barley, and that is how they have I understand the only 100% Isla single malt Scotch whiskey, where 100% of the barley is grown there and everything else is completed there. And that's quite a rarity. That's pretty interesting. I wish to say I was related more closely, but the Wills family did establish this distillery in 2005. It is nestled upon the western side of Isla. Now, this is the side of the island that gets beaten and battered by the Atlantic Ocean. So it definitely takes some waves. It gets some different situations where the weather beats it, but it also is protected in other ways. However, this, as we have learned before, is one of the reasons that the peat that they use to make this Scotch whiskey is so flavorful. That water, the mist coming over the island hills and cliffs to get into the soil where the peat is grown.
Yeah, so you're mentioning like they do like an old traditional way, which is called floor matting. It's a traditional method for preparing the barley for use with the production of the Scotch whiskey, and it's actually it takes a lot longer time for the barley to germinate and get prepared for the Scotch making. And it also takes a lot of room. So you saying like how many acreage that they have, the amount that they use for growing the barley, and then also they have to have that extra room there to do this floor matting here. And the barley, when it germinates, it's dried over peat fire. I think which you're kind of mentioning there, but really hear what it's saying. I'm just trying to sum up this page here. But it says using floor matting method takes more time, space, and labor compared to modern day processes of the industrial maltings. And I think another thing I read here is that a lot of Scotch connoisseurs, this is kind of like one of their new favorites. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why, because with that extra time to make this and I guess manpower, if you want to say that, because it's more hands-on to do this formatting, I think you're probably getting a lot more flavors out of it.
I have no doubt. One of the fun facts about this here Kilchoman ranch or farm and distillery is that they do have a lot of animals that eat some of their ultimately waste products, so they do less damage. But they also have to deal with 50,000 migratory geese each and every year. God damn, man.
Geese aren't nice.
Dude, geese are nasty. They're a pain in the butt. And they come in and they have to wait to sow their barley until the geese leave. Otherwise, they'll eat all the damn seeds. So they wait for these 50,000 geese to migrate on, and then they plant the barley. So it's a very rapid process as far as everything has to be timed. And these birds get to dictate it, man. These are like the dinosaurs on our planet having a say in how good or not so great the Scotch may be for that year. Ultimately, Kilchoman has done a great job figuring out. They wait for the geese to leave. They sow the soil. They get that barley growing in early summer. It grows through the summer, and then early autumn, it is harvest time.
I wonder if that's because, like, I know they started in 2005, but their production really didn't start happening until 2007.
Yeah.
I wonder if that those first 2 years was a little bit of a learning process about the geese,
First the barley. Damn birds.
right? I do like to mention about the tours. Kilchoman does 3 classic tours and 1 limited tour. The classic tour is a 1-hour tour where they do give you 2 drams to drink at the end. And then they have a limited tour, which is 2 hours long, and you do get 4 tastings, and one of those tastings, or I think, or it might be another dram. I wasn't quite sure, but you do it on the floor where they do the malting at the floor malting. So that's kind of cool. The pricing for the classics is $12.40, and if you can bring someone who's under the age of 18 along with you for that tour. However, if you are doing the limited tour, I believe that's 18 and older, and that price is about $43.36.
All right. Worth every penny.
Exactly. So unless you got anything else, let's open up this bad boy.
No, I'm excited to try this scotch. And I think you mentioned something that is very key as the world continues to adapt, and it always has and it always will. One of the things that will happen is whether or not we have an old world style scotch or something new, there will be pieces that bring it back to a different level of craftsmanship. Now, sometimes, good or bad, that's science. Science can create the consistent brewery or distillery or method to get that perfect dram. Other times it is, you know what, it's not going to be the same every year. And I think we've heard this from some distilleries. Sounds like Kilchoman is definitely one of them, where they're going to do it the old way and they're going to get the best product they can each and every time. But at the end of the day, they know what went into it.
You know, when you talk about the old way, the one scotch that comes to mind for me is the Forest by Glenmorangie.
It's damn good scotch.
The Forest, yeah, it is. Hopefully this will be, I don't know if it'll be anywhere near as good, but hopefully it will be nice.
I imagine it will be as good. I imagine it'll be very different. More peaty, more smoky, a little less eucalyptus. All right. Well, the box, handsome. This is a great color purple.
I agree. I think the purple with the black and the gold, it all and the white there, it all goes great.
It is well done, and it is not some cheap, flimsy cardboard. I'm not saying you're spending $100 on this box. That would be foolish, but they didn't throw it into a paper bag, and I like that.
Ooh,
the bottle itself.
Look at that color.
Yeah, that is a great color. Also, well done. Looks respectable, handsome. Just from looks alone, would I take it to a poker night? Hell yeah. It's a little bit shorter and stouter, so less likely to fall over when I hit the table with throwing my cards down saying I won.
Give that man his money.
That's right. Give that man his money. Also, I just think it's great. Would I take this to, I mean, depending on the flavor here, would I take this to share with some connoisseurs based on looks alone? Yeah, I would. And then would I take this to a formal event? Again, I'm going to say yes. And part of the reason I'm going to say that is I'm going to match my pocket square or my tie with this label.
Well, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's taste it before we start deeming that it's worthy of a black tie affair.
We're not worthy. You're not worthy. I think it'll be worthy.
I think the first step here is whether or not it's a wood top. It is.
Great foil, wood top. I can tell by the looks of it, we are not going to be disappointed by this cork. Oh, man. Every walrus loves a tight seal. Solid cork in a solid wood top. This is something that I think is also important when we talk about old ways. It's more about appreciating every aspect. And a piece of that is art. So whether or not, again, you've got the perfect scientific barley, which I imagine they've dealt with some bad years with weather alone on their farm, they're taking those extra measures to make sure they're putting their stamp on it, literally their stamp on the top of the wooden topper with the cork. And that is impressive to me. That's someone who appreciates themselves and their product that much more. Oh, just gotta say, it's a good color.
It is a nice color. All right. Cheers and on to our warp speed. So the other day, I caught this movie called Good Will Hunting. I'm sure you've seen the movie. It's one of my all-time favorites. But there's a scene in there where Robin Williams is talking to, I just forgot the guy's name. Matt Damon. And he's talking about his wife. And he's saying like how, it's the quirks or the imperfections of his wife that make her unique, and that's what makes her special. And when looking at like what we were just talking about earlier before we started our tasting of this Kilchoman, is that there is a scientific perfection, right? With AI and machinery and stuff like that, they can like break everything down to the most minute details to give you what it's supposed to be, the perfect Scotch. But when you look at craftsmanship, this is where the imperfections actually becomes the perfection. And it kind of reminded me of that quote from Good Will Hunting, because this Scotch, I dig it. I really do. I think it's a great Scotch, and I kind of think that quote kind of goes along with it, because they are using craftsmanship to go through that floor matting of it. It takes that extra bit of time, a little bit more like hands-on approach, more of the traditional approach. And I think you're getting like some of these like nuances that you may not have gotten from like an AI machine type of process. And when I look at this here, this has a great color. I mean, as you and I both know, and anyone who's watched us, we like the darker colored Scotches. And this has a really nice dark amber to it. It's like a dark brassy amber color. I like it. I really dig it. It kind of almost reminds me a lot of the Macallan edition number 6 and the color there. And surprisingly enough, I had to ask you like what the ABV was on this, and it's 46%. And I am so surprised because it didn't burn my nose hairs off when I first smelled it. You do something like 46% or 50, or you get close to like the cask strength stuff. You kind of feel like woo. When you smell it, sometimes you're like, well, that has alcohol burn. But this one, I didn't get that. Now for the aroma, this is what I'm getting here, especially like when we first open it up, and it has changed a little bit throughout its opening. But initially on the aroma here, I got earthy, and being that I'm a big, huge like French wine drinker, like I definitely love my Bordeaux's. This gave me like that nice like earthy tones that you get from a good Bordeaux. So you get that kind of like the musky, earthy, mossy kind of flavor with it and the smell. But then there's also you're picking up that ash or that smoke from when they dry that over that the barley over that peat. And so you're getting these really nice earth tones with some ash or smoke. And then after that kind of calms down a little bit, I'm getting hints of coffee. And then you also get the peat, and you're getting like some hints of sweetness there too on the nose, which I'm kind of going like with white grapes, maybe like something more citrusy, like a pineapple, but definitely white grapes. Now for my palate. Here, I'm definitely picking up some more of that fruity sweetness. I'm getting like hints of peach with pineapple, followed up with some dark chocolate and raisin. And then right there, you're starting to like on the, at least for me, near the end of my mid going into my back palate for the finish, I start getting some black pepper or something kind of spicy there. And then the finish, I have as long, lingering, smoky peat with oak. And then after that kind of like ceases, that long, smoky, peaty oak, all of a sudden I get like another dash of dark chocolate. And I'm digging this. I am so digging this. Will I take it to a poker game? Yeah, I think it can hold up at the poker game because of that smoky, ashy. I think it'll hold up well the smoke with a cigar. I think it might even might complement it very well. It won't refresh your palate, but I think it will complement it. Would I take it to like a normal like event? Yes, I definitely would. And yes, I thought, I was saying like, hey, let's hold your horses here. Let's not say we take it to a black tie event until we actually try it. Yeah, you're right. I think I think you are definitely on target there. I think you take this to a nice black tie affair. Like the bottle, the way it's designed, the packaging is decent. The bottle is classy enough that it's not going to disappoint you. The label's not falling off or anything goofy like that. And this is a really great price point because I think it's like right around the $70 mark.
Which, depending on where you go, is about what last week's Bowmore was.
Yeah.
And that's where he's talking about the label falling off, by the way.
So, yeah, I definitely, if you come across this one, I definitely say pick it up for $70. I don't think it'll disappoint you.
I don't think so either. I am extremely pleasantly surprised. And, when we go on dates, the last thing you're ever supposed to do, right, is compare one date to the next. Well, my last date was la 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 and la la la. Well, I'm gonna go there, and I'm gonna say last week I thought the Bowmore during the episode was actually fairly impressive, and it was decent. On a scale of 1 to 10 after this date so far, this is a 10, and the Bowmore sitting around the 3 range. That's the first date I've ever been on in my life below a 5. Like, I don't even know how to go there. First of all, the one thing Bowmore had going for it is his clothes were falling off, right?
Right.
But this Kilchoman, and I apologize, Kilchoman, if I'm pronouncing that name repeatedly incorrectly, is fantastic. On the eye, the color to me is a deep brass, medium copper. And I love that. That is something. And I think, to me, the word remains sensual about a scotch with a color like this. And it's not that the other lighter scotches aren't as great or more flavorful in some ways, but this is fantastic. On the nose for me, and this one is so amazingly complex. I did find it interesting because I do get hints of heather and clove at the front, but typically when I get those, I also get honey, and I got no honey. This just went straight from those basic honey smells without the honey to orange peel, pear, and then a hint of peach. And then the peat and smoke. But the peat and smoke was super mild, which is surprising because the parts per million for peat in this scotch is 50 parts per million. That's not super high, but it's also not super low. Where this scotch really shines, however, once you've put an eye on it and once you've smelled it, is the palate. And here it just comes alive. It's like when you sit down at the dinner table and you're having that great conversation. Doesn't matter if this is the first date or the 100th date. It is fantastic. So with that, I get, and this is interesting because at first I didn't, but as it sat for a little bit, I get ripe plum, raisin for a second. What I love then that pops is the red cherry. There is a hint of citrus in there, and you mentioned you couldn't pinpoint whether it was pineapple or something else. I think it's a hint of just a baby hint of orange to me. Again, mild smoke, toffee, and then you mentioned this as well, the chocolate. And that chocolate pops at just the right time. You guys have got to imagine I am a chocolate covered cherry kind of guy, and this has both flavors in the palate. And then it leads to a strong finish, and not just a strong finish. In the finish, you get all of those same flavors. You get the different fruits, the peat, the smoke, that lasting sweetness, but in there is brown sugar, the red cherry. Again, mild peat and smoke. And chocolate, and none of them overpower the other. It's almost like this was engineered because it's flawless, as he said in your movie.
All right. So are you still keeping with everything you said before we open it up?
I will say, as I continue to taste and enjoy this, it just continues to build. You mentioned a comparison to the Macallan edition number 6. I think you're not far off. This has some amazing flavors in there. Would I take it to a poker game? Absolutely, especially if there's anybody there that I care about. If there's nobody there I care about, I'm taking the other bottle of Bowmore because that's a cheap date. But would I take this to friends, connoisseurs, drinks, a party? Yes, absolutely. Would I take this to a semi-formal or formal event? Yes, absolutely. And I am going to make it shine. I'm going to take the time and I'm going to look at the bottle and I'm going to say, hey, no, put that little glass down. No, get the one with the gold rim. You got to match the bottle here.
You know what I would do too? I know this is kind of classless.
Maybe it's not.
But if I was at a party, like let's say like a housewarming party or whatever, and I brought this over where everyone was like drinking from the bottles, if someone didn't finish this bottle, I'm taking it home with me.
Not only that, it's probably the only one I'm drinking. I might taste the others. It's the one I'm drinking, and they are heavy pours.
We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a Patreon member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening.